Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Crystal, and this is another edition of the 9 O'Clock Meltdown podcast. And over phone, I have the extremely talented and very wise Greg Connor. Hello, sir.
That's a great introduction.
Well, it's true.
Now I have to live up to this now, see?
Oh, Pasha, you already live up to it. You're great. Greg, you and I actually met. I was working as a receptionist at the time, and I believe we probably met at an open mic back in a past life that I had, because we both recognized each other, and then you're like, I'm Greg, and I'm like, I know you are, but I don't know where from.
Well, that happens a lot, so I can imagine.
Yes. And you've come out with many different albums. You're a beautiful guitar player and beautiful lyricist. Let's kind of dive into the music, if we may. How did you get started on this endeavor? Was it kind of something that you did throughout life, or was it forced upon you by outside forces?
Well, I come from a musical family, and I started playing guitar when I was 12. I got in my first band when I was 13, and now that was a garage band, and now I'm playing cross harp, harmonica, in a blues band in a garage band. Except now we've ventured out into other things like VFWs and things like that. But we're a bunch of old geezers that are playing blues in these places. Mm-hmm. But I've played all the way through.
Yeah, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So this blues band that you're in, do you guys usually do covers? Is it originals, or is it a mix?
It's covers completely. It's organized by a fellow named Mike Wolf down in Minneapolis. And he's got about 25 musicians that he has found. And he sends out a schedule every 2 weeks and says, when are you available? And then we mark down when we're available, and they're playing about 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, wow.
I usually play on Monday nights and Thursday nights, and not every night. But and my sole job now is harmonica over there. I started out as a guitar player, then a bass player, and I'd fill in for whoever wasn't coming in, and then they heard my harmonica playing, and I've been stuck in that ever since.
Oh, so Greg, it sounds like you're multifaceted. Did that just kind of come with the territory and kind of filling in the gaps, or was that something that you were interested in?
I've always been interested in that. My dad played everything: piano, guitar, fiddle. We had a mandolin in the house that never seemed to work. But I think I got that from him, because I play the same types of things: guitars, banjos, everything.
Mm-hmm. Fabulous. Let's jump into lyric-wise. Your songs are really rich and in-depth, not just with the guitar, but I've listened to a number of them now, and, you got some harmonica sprinkled in, maybe a little smooth kind of drum playing, but then your lyrics are just the meat of the entire song, which is absolutely amazing. Do you write about things that you've experienced in your life, or is it kind of more diving into more the kind of fanciful realm of songwriting? What kind of drives that?
Crystal, I think I need to talk to you more often. You are so flattering. I'm feeling pretty good about myself now. But no, I've when I was a kid, I was writing songs or poetry. I started out as poetry, I suppose, in my 12 years old, and I remember my wife, when I met her, we were 21 years old, and I wrote a song called Thinking About Rita Blues, and my wife's name is Rita, and she accused me of just changing the name of the girl who I was going out with. Oh. And putting that in the song, and I swore up and down it wasn't. But I've been writing lyrics my whole life.
Did that kind of just come out of like a necessity? Like, for example, Dolores O'Riordan, the lead singer of the Cranberries, and even the late Sinead O'Connor, they just say that writing and expressing yourself in that manner, in the musical manner, it's something that drives you, and it's something that needs to happen in your life. Otherwise, your life kind of descends into chaos without it. Is that kind of something that you've found with your lyrics and your musical playing?
Yeah, I think I have to do it. It has to come out. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but there's a lot of it that comes out. I keep telling everybody jokingly that it came from 30 years in the meat business. I used to sell hot dogs for Hillshire Farm,
Oh,
and so I know just about every meat guy in the Duluth and surrounding area. So, and that's some quick thinking when you're in there talking to these guys with knives.
so you weren't a butcher, but you were the guy that was kind of the go-between then?
I was the sales rep, and I handled all the distribution up here for Hillshire, and so that's what I did for a living. And I don't know why, but I have just honed that skill of writing lyrics, and in fact, I can write them pretty fast at sometimes.
Yeah.
So we've had, for, like you said, you've done this podcast for many years.
Hmm.
We've had for several years this thing called the Minnesota Coffee Table. It's just a group of us musicians that go to somebody's house, and in my case, I have a coffee table down in my studio, and the idea is that we start at 6 o'clock, and usually there's a bottle of wine involved, and we start. We have a glass of wine at 6, and by 9 o'clock we have a song written and recorded and posted on the internet.
Wow.
Yeah, so and we've tried that practice for many years now.
Yeah.
So
I don't think even professional musicians can boast that, so amen to you.
yeah, I don't know. Some of them are pretty fast, and those in Nashville are really fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's Nashville. Let's not compare apples and oranges here.
Okay.
So Greg, obviously, people change, people grow, circumstances change. Looking back, how was your kind of first album compared to this latest album that you've put out? I mean, obviously, there's a plethora of music in there and things like that, but I guess how would you compare this music? Would you compare it to being more kind of mature or maybe a little bit more low key? How would you compare in your own words?
Oh, I think this latest album that I put out is definitely more complicated. There's more instrumentation. I think that the lyrics are much better. It's just overall just a much more polished presentation. The first album I put out was called Woodcuts, and I actually recorded that at this Doghouse studio in Nickerson, Minnesota, just south of Duluth here. And that was in 2000, I think, or it might have been 1999. That was my first album. Now, this 15th album that I've got out is called Lake Superior. In fact, what does it say exactly? It says songs inspired by Lake Superior and surrounding area. That's 25 songs that are related to this area. And it, just like you said, there's harmonica, there's banjo, there's mandolin, there's Irish whistle. I mean, it's just got all kinds of stuff. And then the lyrics. And the lyrics would include things like the Lake Superior Hiking Trail, the Duluth aerial lift bridge. It's just fun to write it. It's fun to present it, and I've actually had a few people listen to it. So
Well, excellent. I'll play a song here after our chat. So it sounds like you've kind of encapsulated the Duluth sound. Now, when I started out kind of in the Duluth music scene back in 2008, I was absolutely captivated by the Hobo Nephews, Charlie Parr, Low, the bands that really kind of made Duluth Duluth. But then on the flip side of it, there was kind of a little bit more of an underground grunge punk scene that I really kind of gravitated to as well. But no, that the use of the banjo and the mandolin and like a acoustic guitar and harmonica and things like that, people have kind of come to expect that out of what Duluth has to offer for music. It's very folky, almost kind of grassroots. So it sounds like you've encapsulated that perfectly in this new album.
Yeah, there's a lot of all of that stuff in there.
Hmm.
And it's just fun to hear it. It catches your attention when you hear these different instruments in there.
Definitely. And Trampled by Turtles. I almost forgot to mention those guys.
Interesting you'd mention that group. One of the fellows that's the main singer in this blues band that I'm singing or playing in, he knows those guys and has in the past played with them.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, so it's a small world out there.
Yeah, well, especially in Duluth, I think everybody kind of knows everybody, and if you're involved in one scene, you're kind of adapted into all of them, and
Yeah.
everybody knows everybody. That can be a good or bad thing. So,
As long as you keep your instrument tuned, I think you're okay.
okay, all right, good, good. Quotes from Greg Connor right here. Fabulous, Greg, fabulous. So you said that for a day job you worked for Hillshire Farms, kind of traveling around and being their sales rep. Do any of your songs, I mean, you've got an extensive back catalog, but do any of your songs kind of reflect your time on the road?
Gosh, I can't think of a particular song that's about selling hot dogs. I was selling quite a few hot dogs. We're selling all that stuff by the semi load up here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and my job was to call on the warehouse and then get myself into trouble by shipping this stuff as much as I could,
Oh.
and then trying to find a home for it. So, but I don't think I wrote too many songs about hot dogs or meat in general. But I have written some different songs. One of them is a song called Labradoodle Lane, and the verse goes, "How did I end up on Labradoodle Lane?" it's making me crazy and it's driving me insane.
Oh.
And that's because I ended up moving away from Duluth to help. It's my mother that was getting a little bit along in years, and she was misbehaving herself a little bit, so we had to get a little closer to where she was, and so we ended up moving down to the cities 12 years ago. And she's gone now, and now we're trying to figure out how to get back here.
Oh,
the housing prices are just driving us nuts. But so we're up at St. Scholastica right now in the dorm. We've been here all month, and we're not looking at houses as much as we're taking hikes on the trails and spending the time by the lake. So
right. Yeah, the housing market is something else. So I can attest to that. Took me a year and a half to find my tiny house that's not even 500 square feet, but the one next to me actually is going up for sale, so I'll let you know. I'll keep you in the loop.
Oh, a 500 square foot house. Mm-hmm. Yow.
It does work.
I know you're recently married. You're going to have to really be in love to make that work.
Oh, yes, yes, it works. It works just fine. So, Craig, you had mentioned that you had written a song, Rita, for your wife, and she didn't take too kindly to the song right away. How has kind of her view of your musical endeavors been? Has it always been something that she's been interested in, or is it kind of like, okay, honey, that's your hobby, you go do you?
Oh, no, she's very supportive, and she was even supportive of that. She was. We learned early on that teasing each other was the best way to get along. So any chance that she'd have to keep me honest, she would do it. Mm-hmm. But no, she loved the song. But she suspected that maybe I was changing the names, So, but no, that never happened.
So, Greg, you and Rita have lived up here for many years, it sounds like, and then recently moved down to the cities.
We've been down there now for 12 years, and so for 11 of those years, I was right, within 10 miles of her, and right at the end, we had 3 years in a assisted living place. Mm. But I'd bring my guitar over there every month, at least once a month, and I would recruit her, and we'd go around and we'd have concerts. And they were the sing-along type of concerts, and we'd get the whole group, everybody on the floor singing. Mm-hmm. And so she loved it. Mm-hmm. My mom was a big singer. My dad was a big player and singer.
Oh, wonderful.
And so now, we moved the whole show right over to the assisted living place.
Mm, hmm.
And I'm still volunteering there, and I'm doing that at least once a month, sometimes twice a month.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I've actually found, just throughout my time working here in Duluth and talking to different musicians, that the assisted living places can actually be pretty lucrative. You know, if you've got a few covers under your belt and you can slip in some originals. Have you kind of found that as well? That assisted living places are kind of, I mean, they're nichey in a way, but they're also pretty fun to do as well.
Oh yeah, well, I've actually played that whole circuit of nursing homes up here. I think for the last, well, I haven't been here for 12 years, but I used to play. I was the backup bass guitar player for the out of towners. So when the real
Ah,
guy couldn't show up, then they'd call me, and I'd play with these guys in these nursing homes. In fact, the one that you worked at,
hmm.
I played at quite a bit. Down there, I never pursued trying to make money at that.
Hmm.
I now I'm just a registered volunteer. They even gave me a background check, and I somehow passed it. So I was pretty happy about that.
Well, I will admit background checks are a little bit more lenient than what they used to be, so I'm kidding. All right, excellent. Greg, let's talk about kind of your studio time. Now, you mentioned that you've got a studio in your home. Is that where you do most of your recording, or do you go to more of a setup, more kind of professional studio to record your albums?
No, I do them right in my home. In fact, I've got two setups really. I've got a studio in my home, which studio is kind of a big word for what I've got. I've got a recorder in my basement. That's what I got.
Hmm.
And I've got a couple of microphones, and I can record 8 tracks at once if I want to. I've never done that, but I have recorded my guitar in stereo or some instrument in stereo and sung at the same time, and so that would take up 3 tracks, and that works pretty good. And then I also have a couple of portable handheld recorders. One of them is stereo, and it's a really high quality Zoom H6 is what it is.
Mm.
If I'm getting together with friends, I'll bring something like that. And I also have a Zoom, I think it's called an H1, and that's got 4 microphones on it, and it'll record 4 tracks at a time. And that's one of those things where you plop it down in the middle of the coffee table, and everybody cuddles up around the coffee table, and then you sing the song, and it comes out in 4 tracks.
Excellent.
And it works great.
To that point, I remember one of my photography teachers, Jeff Fifield, told me, Crystal, if your equipment works for you, then it works for you. You don't need to go big and fancy, just because. If something works for you and you can get it to turn out just fine, go for it. I think that was some of the best advice I ever got. So,
Yeah.
so yes, I can attest to having a smaller setup as well. I've got a pretty little one here myself, but you know what? It works.
So now I know that you're a poet. Are you a musician too?
I've dabbled in musicianship throughout the years, mainly playing flute in different bands and different facets. That way, I did pick up the guitar at 16, but I would always get so frustrated with it because I could never switch quick enough between chords. And then, you only have to play certain strings on one or certain strings on the other. Backtrack just a few years ago, I found what's called the caged triad system. And it's an
Yeah.
open chord system, but you move that chord up and down the fretboard. And it
Yeah, I
can,
know it.
yeah, it can make the different sounds that you need it to make. So I kind of fell in love with that. Because then I don't have to remember what strings I have to mute and what ones I don't. I can just hit it and go.
Excellent.
But yeah, I have not picked up an instrument in a while. It's been a little bit on hiatus because I wanted to finish my poetry book and work on that, and then really more do a deep dive into podcasting and just kind of the house as well. So Home takes up a lot of your time. You don't think it's going to, but it does.
Yeah, well, that married life, that's all new for you now.
Yep.
Although you've got a year under your belt, don't you? Not
Yes.
quite.
Yes. Almost a year. So.
Almost a year,
Yep.
yeah. So, yeah, that's a whole changing life there. But,
Yes, it is. Yes, it
yeah.
is. I was so to take a tangent, but I was living by myself when we met, and then he was like, "You need to move in. It'll be better for us both." Blah blah. Blah. And I'm like, "No, I like my life. I've got everything. I like what I've got going on." And then we moved in together, and I thought I'd be able to, keep my giant workout equipment and, my guitars over here in the corner and my multiple shoes and stuff like that. But you find that there are things you need to sacrifice to the.
Well, with 500 square feet, you do.
Exactly, exactly. So I'll get back into those things as soon as I find a home for them, but.
Yeah. I haven't been playing much in this last month. This whole month, we've been just enjoying this North Shore, and we've been over to Washburn and Bayfield a couple times, and up to Grand Marais. And I haven't been playing much guitar, but I do have a carbon fiber guitar underneath the bed up here, and I've caught up with a few old friends. And we've been having a ball. So about once a week, I've been playing up here, just in the basement of somebody's house.
Fabulous, Greg. That's excellent to hear. And summers are so short up here. You've got to go out and enjoy them while you can. I'll admit I haven't been enjoying summer as much as I would like, just with the Canadian wildfires. My allergies go skyrocketing and then I get headaches, but I'm not the only one that's kind of suffering from those, it sounds like. So.
Oh, yeah, you can see it in the air. I can actually taste it. But we keep going anyway.
Exactly. Keep pushing forward and making that happen. So, Greg, you've got a new album, Lake Superior. Is that going to be available on iTunes and Spotify, or are you just kind of playing it close to your heart for now?
It's on iTunes, Spotify, any streaming network you want to find. It's on there. It's also on YouTube for those people that don't have an account.
Okay.
You can go to YouTube and listen to that album or any one of the 14 other albums or whatever you want.
Wonderful.
So,
all right.
yeah.
Excellent, Greg. If someone's interested in kind of seeing what you've got going on, or maybe sending you an email for seeing if you'd be willing to play a show or to play with them, how can they do that?
I'll send you a link, and when you post this podcast, maybe you can include that link to my website with the Minnesota Association of Songwriters. And there's a way of getting a hold of me there, too.
You got it. Before I cut you loose here to enjoy the day, can we talk about Minnesota Songwriters a little bit?
Sure.
So, for people that don't necessarily know what Minnesota Songwriters is, how do you get involved? I know it's an organization, but don't you have to submit an application to it or pay some dues? How does that work?
It's $50 a year, which is a bargain. And they once you pay your $50, you can build a web page. It's actually pretty elaborate. You can put music on there. You can put pictures on there. You can put video, whatever you want on there. You can put a blurb about yourself, just all kinds of stuff. And they have a lot of Zoom right now. It's Zoom calls. Before it used to be in person. But now they're all Zoom calls, and I think there's at least one of them a week where they're talking about songwriting, different aspects of songwriting, different ways to prompt yourself to get moving on songwriting. It's pretty neat. In fact, I wrote a song once after being on this Zoom call. They gave me a progression of chords, and it had a B suspended chord in there. And I had never written a song with a B suspended chord, but I managed to do it, and I just enjoyed that process a lot. So if you know anybody that's looking for somebody to encourage you to do more of this songwriting, the Minnesota Association of Songwriters is probably a good avenue to go with.
Fabulous. Excellent, Greg. Thank you. And
Yeah.
there's multifacets to Minnesota as well, not just with the Songwriters Association, but there's, poetry guilds and artist collaboration. And Minnesota seems to be this plethora of community and kind of coming together with these different facets, whatever that may be, to kind of interest you. So it's fabulous to hear there's one just for songwriting and that it's pretty accessible, actually.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Well, the thing about this is you mentioned collaborations. I mean, that's one of the things that they encourage a lot. And there's a lot of people. I think there's over 100 members right now. And I've collaborated with quite a few of them. And you end up with songs that aren't similar to what you normally have, but they're fantastic. And, sometimes one person will write the melody and the musical part, and another person will add the lyrics. And sometimes it's a blend of each, where you're doing it together and you play and sing together and write the lyrics. And I mean, just any part of that. I mean, it doesn't matter how you do it, but I always end up with some kind of a great masterpiece at the end of it.
Wonderful. That's excellent to hear, Greg. Well, Greg, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and your week to talk with me in the wider world about your music and life experiences. I'm elated to hear the new album, Lake Superior, and I'm happy that we finally got to do this, and hopefully we'll meet before the summer's out.
Hey, that sounds like fun. Crystal, this has been a lot of fun.
All right, excellent, Greg. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Lake Superior hiking trail, that's where I wanna be. Wandering up and down the trails, among the rocks and trees. Fill your pack with everything you think you're gonna need. Hike all day and bring it back full of memories. I'm heading toward the trailhead so we can start it all again. Hiking shoes around my toes are wearing down my vibrant soul. So come along with me and all the things that we will see. And when our hike is at an end, we can start it all over again. Hike on out to see the view of a lake big as the sea. The wind so crisp and sky so blue, it's waiting there for me. The chickadees and the white-tailed deer, oh, they keep me company. Up and down that rocky trail, across another stream, heading toward the trailhead where we can start it all again. Hiking shoes around my toes, wearing down those vibrant soles. So come along with me and all the things that we will see. And when my hike is at an end, we can start it all over again. Yeah, let's start it again. Lake Superior hiking trail. It's a cliche, a ray of hope I'd say. Find solutions round the bend. Doors get broken, windows open, and the light comes in again. Looking for the open window, now that the door has closed. I'm gonna find the one that's open, and on my way I'll go. On my way I'll go. Door has closed now, and I don't know how I can begin again. And it's a new day, I'll find another way, and on that you can depend. Looking for the open window, now that the door has closed. I'm gonna find the one that's open, and on my way I'll go. On my way I'll go. And it's amazing, the curtains raising, and I see things new again. When the door closed, a touch of hope arose, just like the fable said. Looking for the open window, now that the door has closed. I'm gonna find the one that's open, and on my way I'll go. On my way I'll go. Pack a bag and head out west, a change of clothes and leave the rest. My northern skin needs a little sun. Sunshine can cure anyone. Slow it down to a steady pace. Forget about the human race. All I need is what's inside. Take the rest and let it ride. Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, a tale of witches in the desert air. Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, I think my mind's already there. New Mexico, a tale of witches in the desert air. Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, I think my mind's already there. I wonder what's come over me, almost like tranquility. I showed up here feeling pretty thin, looking like I was all done in. A couple days in the desert sun, I think the healing has begun. It don't matter where I've been, that's what I heard on the desert wind. Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, a tale of witches in the desert air. Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, I think my mind's already there. I think my mind's already there. I think my mind's already there.